Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Susan Lopresti Wellness, Mind, Body, and Soul, the podcast where we explore the highs, the lows, and everything in between when it comes to a woman's life, her health, and all aspects of navigating the midlife landscape. I'm your host, Susan Lopresti, and I'm super excited, and I know that I say that a lot, but I'm really excited about today's guest. I have Elizabeth Lockhart with me, and let me tell you a little bit about Elizabeth. A near-death experience when she was 5 years old. She almost drowned. And this inspired a spiritual openness within her that has persisted throughout her lifetime. She holds a BS in medical technology and worked as a medical technologist in clinical laboratories for over 30 years. Yet she always yearned to work with people more directly and deeply in a healing capacity. And after reading Dr. Michael Newton's Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls many years ago, she knew that she had to learn how to conduct life. It was a calling in 2013 when she trained for transpersonal hypnotherapy and past life regression therapy with Paul Aurand, which he is an MHT of Holistic Healing Center in New York City. She is an IACT certified hypnosis, seeking a strong foundation for this work. She earned an MS in clinical mental health counseling from the University of Southern Maine, and she's also a national certified counselor. Many clients who come to see her are seeking guidance regarding their life purposes, support with grief, and other struggles, such as stuckness or life transitions, finding meaning, and other issues, including simple curiosity. So after practicing Reiki for 13 years, she completed a yearlong apprenticeship with Patricia Keene and became Traditional Reiki Master teacher, fulfilling her heart's dreams. And she also trained with Michael Newton Institute and is certified as a Life Between Lives therapist. She's apprenticed as a sound healing practitioner with Kalee Coombs of Vibrations of Joy and offers elements of sound in sessions as well as aromatherapy using doTerra, pure essential oils, and crystal mineral therapy as guided. She serves as the chief editor of the Newton Institute Stories of the Afterlife quarterly journal from 2018 to 2020. And without further ado, let's welcome Elizabeth Lockhart. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here with me.
Absolutely. I don't mind a bit.
Let's get started with how you came into this work.
Well, when I was 5, I drowned, and I had a near-death experience, and it was really so beautiful and peaceful. It always stayed with me, and there was always a spiritual openness within me. However, I absolutely loved science. So it doesn't mean that the two have to be, separate. That everything's connected. But I ended up going into clinical laboratory science, so for hospitals and doctors' offices and that sort of thing. So I, worked in various parts of the lab, and I specialized in microbiology. That was the department I enjoyed the most. So dealing with bacterial infections and that sort of thing, viral infections. Then about 30 years into it, I felt this kind of pull, tug, like I was getting repetitive motions in my body, and they were really unpleasant. In fact, I still suffer from a lot of them today. So in my 50s, someone had given me a book. Well, actually, a couple of books. One book was Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss about past lives. And the one that really moved me was Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton. The reason that one moved me so much was he didn't just explore past lifetimes. He went into the soul realm, or what happens next in between our lives. It was extremely interesting. I felt a calling. So I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I was a single parent with two teens at home and working two jobs, one at a hospital. Well, actually, they were one at a big hospital lab and then one at another lab, hospital lab. There wasn't much time or energy for anything, but I just knew it was a calling. So it was amazing how everything fell into place. I also became a Reiki master teacher in a matter of about 10 years. And I really feel like that energy work helped me through everything and helped things to fall into place. And I was able to go back to school to earn my in clinical mental health counseling, which is, I wanted a good, being a science head, I wanted a good foundation for doing this hypnotherapy, past life regression, and life between lives spiritual regression therapy. So that took about 3 years. And as I was earning my MS, I was also going to school in New York with learning from Paul Aurand, who's was the director of education for the Michael Newton Institute. Now he's made his own name, so he does his own work, but he still helps at the Michael Newton Institute. So I earned my certification in transpersonal hypnotherapy, past life regression hypnotherapy, and a couple of years after that, the Michael Newton Institute accepted me for their training program and I became certified. And since 2013, I've been doing this work. I've had my business since 2014. So I call it my practice, really. I don't think of it so much as a business as a practice. So it's been 10 years this year, and I absolutely love the work, and I feel like it really helps people heal on so many levels. There's a lot of work that we do as working with spirit guides, and it's amazing what happens next after someone passes through the death scene in a past lifetime. Who comes to greet you? Who do you meet up with? Usually it's a spirit guide or spirit guides. What are they like? How do you feel when you meet up with them? It's just a beautiful experience asking for healing. Usually the spirit guides will offer healing, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual healing. And a lot of times clients will meet up with past loved ones. They may come to greet them, or the spirit guide may just help to guide them to meet up with the past loved ones. We meet up with soul groups, which are really interesting. You can have a primary soul group of about 20 to 25 souls that you've been with for eons, pretty much since your creation as a soul. And then there are specialty soul groups, which are really cool. So those are smaller, and you're working on special things like healing, creating matter from energy. There are all kinds of different specialty soul groups. And then there are recreational soul groups. Those tend to be a little bit larger, but not always. But musical soul groups, traveling through interdimensional planets and star systems and those kinds of soul groups. So the benefits in my heart is the benefits are that you realize that when you die, you're not gone. you're an eternal soul, eternal consciousness. And so you go on and you do have a life between lives. You do have jobs that you have experiences that are wonderful and healing and exciting. And I love helping clients navigate through what they're experiencing because sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. Some clients are actually, when they leave the life, when they go through the death scene, they actually find that they're another being, another in another body, in another life form, I should say, in another star system on another planet. I probably only have 3 to 4% of my clients who go there to that unusual way of being or that unusual form other than what you would expect from a human
Do,
life form.
do you ever encounter someone who, at some point in another lifetime, they were an animal?
Yes, and that too, and within that 3 to 4% of unusual past lives, I have had clients come back as birds or animals, koala bear, trees, and even rocks, just merging with the consciousness of a rock, which is pretty amazing. Everything is made up of units of consciousness, so for me it's easier to understand that, so I'm just very open when I do this work, and I ask a lot of questions, a lot of not trying to grill a client, but just to open up their story, open up, everything that's happening, all the details of what they're experiencing. And so some clients are very forthcoming and they'll just go on and on and on and on. And other clients, you kind of have to dig a little bit and explore more intently. So
Do you see a client more than once, or is one session sufficient?
usually, I offer something a little bit different. A lot of my colleagues will, and Michael Newton's model, which I honor, requires that a person have a successful past life regression before they move on to a life between lives session. I offer what I call an introduction to life between lives at the end of the past lifetime. So after the client goes through the death scene, I'm asking them, what happens next? What are you noticing now? Keep going. Tell me about your surroundings. Tell me everything you're experiencing. And usually, with the help of spirit and our guides, I'm able to help connect them, facilitate the connection with their spirit guide or guides or someone of import in the soul realm who they would really benefit by connecting with. So that's just a little, I say little, but it's a really important piece of this work is experiencing that introduction to the soul realm and what it's like to be a soul, to not have a physical body, and what happens next. And most often the guides do want to kind of go over that past life you've just lived and things that you've learned, things that you might have done differently. So it could be a really beautiful meeting. And it also helps should a client decide to do a life between lives. It helps to make that connection and know that they can do the work, know that they can get that deep into the theta brainwave state to be able to recall the past life, the soul memories. So that helps set them up for a life between lives session at a later date if they want to. Because we do cover so much in that past life regression, including I have them make a cast of characters, important people in their lifetime, and a list of questions, burning questions or intentions, which we do ask along with the spirit guide once they make that connection to help them go over different things. Their soul self is also very aware, very present, because remember, they've shed the earthly shell and they're pure soul too. They're in their soul self form. So the dialogue, I facilitate a dialogue between the questions and intentions they came to the session with, between their higher soul self and their spirit guide. And of course, their human self is there too, to listen, to watch, to take in, to even ask more questions. Everything is recorded, audio, so that they can, their conscious mind can go over everything later. Most sessions are about 5 hours long. That includes the intake of about an hour, hour and a half, the session itself, which is usually about 3 to 4 hours. It is, at times we do go over. At times it's more like a 5.5 hour session or even a 6 hour session, but we try to
And
keep it around five.
in one seating, like one client will be with you for 5 hours. Okay, so I didn't have that
Mm.
kind of an experience. I
Yeah,
wanted to ask you because you mentioned something about death. And I think what you were saying was that they go back to remember how they died. Is that
exactly. Yeah. 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 So I guide them through the death scene. And from the beginning, we create a sphere of loving, protective light so they don't need to suffer physically. Occasionally, they'll have a symptom and they'll say, "Oh, my shoulder hurts." And I'll say, "That's okay. Let's go to the origin of that shoulder pain." If they're not aware of what it is, 5, 4, 3, 2, be there now. Tell me what's happening. What are you noticing? And remember that sphere of protective, loving light. You can view everything safely and objectively from behind that shield of light. So you don't need to suffer. You've already been through this. Don't need to go through it again. So there they are in that sphere of light, describing everything that's happening on a battlefield, for example, someone stabbing me in the shoulder with a bayonet. Or so the shield of light really helps us observe and process the death scene from that past lifetime. And I just keep guiding them through, what happens next? Tell me what you're noticing now. Is there anyone you wish to reach out and comfort before you leave Earth's plane? A lot of times they'll want to reach out and energetically hug their loved ones or visit a special place, a beautiful, peaceful place that they used to like to go to before they leave Earth's plane. So that processing the death scene, and then we just keep moving, and then find themselves in the soul realm. Usually there's light, a beautiful white light. Sometimes it can be very bright, sometimes kind of soft and diffuse. I just let them tell me
right?
what they're experiencing.
What is the end result for a client? Like, what is the benefit of going through this whole process? Are they in search of some answers? What do you get from this? What's the benefit? And what brings someone to see you in the first place?
Sometimes I send them a lot of information before they even you know decide that this work sounds interesting for them. And a lot of people come because they're stuck in behavior patterns that they're unhappy, relationship patterns they're unhappy with. A lot of relationships are karmic in nature, not as a punishment, but as an experiential learning. Some clients come to meet their spirit guide. They have felt a presence around them, especially if something traumatic has happened, and they feel this presence, and really want to meet their spirit guide or guides. A lot of the guides are angels. Some of them are souls who have been through a lot of experiences, who are very wise. These beings are very comforting and help them sort things out. Some clients come because they've lost a loved one, so this can really help with grief. I myself lost my son at 30 and my mother too young, and she was my person. So I myself really benefited from meeting up with them in the spirit realm and seeing it, feeling, experiencing where they were at, what they were doing, how they were feeling. And it was very beautiful and very healing. So that is often something that happens, losing a loved one.
That I could totally see. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and also healing. I mean, this work is therapeutic. That's why they call it hypnotherapy.
Right.
It can be very healing, insights, gaining higher perspectives, understandings, insights into things in your current lifetime, how they may relate to a past lifetime. Maybe there were decisions that you made in past lifetimes that have not been for your highest and best. So you'd like to maybe go back and check those out. And perhaps that helps you have a better approach in this lifetime when you're making decisions.
Right.
I always just say the potential for physical, psychological, emotional, and spiritual healing through this whole process is immense. So
Yeah.
a lot of people do come back for the full Life Between Lives session after they've had a successful past life and intro to Life Between Lives. And they navigate the spiritual realm. And one of the most interesting phenomenon is they explore what their job is in the soul realm. How do I spend my energy? What sorts of things am I doing on the other side? Because we only bring a percentage of our soul energy into any incarnation. So while I may have 40% of my soul energy in this body, there's 60% in the spirit realm. And what is that 60% doing? I want to know. So I found out that one of the, well, I have a recreational soul group where we travel interdimensionally for interest and exploration. However, one of my most intensive jobs is I'm a member of what you might think of as a Reiki group, Reiki energy healing. There are 8 of us. And when someone's had a particularly traumatic lifetime, their guides will bring their soul to us. And there are 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, if you imagine kind of like a table, and 1 on either end. And so the 8 of us will work energetically on the soul to help restore and balance and heal. So that's a real honor to be able to do that. And I can understand why I was drawn to be a Reiki practitioner. That was almost 20. Well, that was more than 20 years ago. That was like 23 years ago. I learned Reiki. So, yeah. So it's really interesting to find out what you're doing with, on the other side. And of course, meeting up with people you never imagined would be in one of your soul groups. Like, oh my gosh, that person was so nasty to me. How could they possibly be in my soul group or one of my soul groups? So that's kind of neat too, because a lot of healing and forgiveness can occur when you have a soul to soul meeting. Is there anything you'd like to say to your uncle who molested you in this lifetime? And the uncle's soul is there and the client's soul is there. And, how could you, you really impacted my sense of self-esteem and whatever they need to say. And there's usually, I'm really sorry. I volunteered to do that because, which sounds bizarre, but there are things that we're all learning. So it could be that soul who committed the molestation was learning how it felt to be a perpetrator, how it felt to perhaps harm someone. It sounds awful, but if you look at the ultimate scheme of things, we're all learning experientially. And of course, the soul who's been molested is learning how to overcome and heal and build herself back or himself back. So there are those kind of touchy subjects that can be addressed too. Yeah, it's really cool. I highly encourage you to read Dr. Michael Newton's work, Journey of Souls, and he wrote Destiny of Souls as well. And they're amazing. For me, they were life-changing books. They're all about case studies with different themes, and we're coming out with a new one actually. At the Michael Newton Institute, I'm in the process of editing and actually writing parts of the book too. It's going to be called Finding Purpose. So it's again soul studies, soul case study, a collection of case stories, I guess you could say. So we tend to work with these souls many times throughout the eons of time, not just on Earth in a human body, but say on other planets and other life forms, that kind of thing. Usually what comes forward is related to, say, the last 2,000 years on Earth, lifetimes on the last during the last 2,000 years on Earth, just because they tend to be more relevant to what you're dealing with in your current lifetime. However, I have had clients go way back, like 40,000 years to Atlantis. I've actually had a couple of lifetimes in Atlantis too. A lot of people who seek out this work have had hundreds, if not thousands, of lifetimes on Earth as a human. So it's really interesting to see.
Yes.
Oh, that's another thing I didn't mention. When you have a life between lives, the spiritual regression, and it's a full session. You can go to the Akashic records or the Hall of Records or the book. You can access your book of life, which is amazing. And it's like an energetic book. Uh, you may see or feel a book because you can relate more in your current life. You can relate more to a book. And yet it's very energetic. You sink into the pages. Say if you're looking for a certain theme that's been bugging you from, just, I'm so selfish. I really wonder, why am I so selfish? So that may be your intention, have I had other lifetimes where I've been really selfish? Or so you can sink into that energetic book, or AKA Akashic record, and experience yourself. It's amazing because you actually find yourself in another lifetime as another person or life form, or you can sink right into it, and you're there. You experience yourself as being there, noticing the surroundings and and feeling the body that you're in. And it's very much like a past life regression, except it's more, expansive. So yeah, that's pretty cool. A lot of times we have lessons that we're teaching each other and learning from each other, and soulmates help us sometimes in really beautiful, positive ways, and other times in really horrible ways. Um, for example, you may have a parent who's just been terribly abusive and withholding, unsupportive, and the soul is trying to teach you to become more independent and build your self-esteem by yourself, for yourself, and set boundaries, that sort of thing. Maybe you've had lifetimes where boundaries were too difficult for you to set. And so this soulmate is helping you learn to set boundaries. That happens a lot. So
That
there are no,
possibly could be. I mean, that possibly could be it. Okay.
yeah, setting boundaries. That's huge, huge. And believing in yourself, especially we women tend to, doubt ourselves a lot and live for others and do for others, and without honoring ourselves as much as we should, as much as we're worthy of being honored and appreciated. So a lot of lifetimes can be devoted to, wow, for example, being a slave, picking cotton in a cotton field and sweating and thirsty and just miserable. And the contrast of that with, say, the lady of leisure living in a mansion in the 1600s, and the contrast. Earth offers a lot of for us to experience, and also opportunities for deciding, making choices. So it's pretty cool.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So where people can find you.
Okay, so the way to contact me, my practice name is Mariposa Hypnotherapy, and the email, of course, is Elizabeth at mariposahypnotherapy.com. I have a website that's mariposahypnotherapy.com. A lot of times the Wix website wants you to contact me through the website, but that does not work very well for some reason. So it's best to email me. And my information for my phone is on my website. Also, it's 207-423-1891. So that's email is really the best because sometimes I'm just on the fly.
Yes.
So,
So I will put all of your information in the show notes as well, all the links.
okay,
And
great. I
yeah,
offer virtual sessions as well. And the
perfect.
virtual sessions are perfect, especially for the person who, I work overseas sometimes with Poland or Ukraine or UK or because people can stay in their own environment. There's no traveling involved. They can really sink into their just their comfort zone. I'm home, I don't have to travel. So the sessions are just beautiful. They work really beautifully online. So just to reassure, some of those have been just amazing. Well, I'm honored that you would like to do this, to use this as a podcast. That's really exciting.
Absolutely. I'm all about alternative healing modalities, and
Mm,
certainly one of those modalities that I've been wanting to talk about. So I appreciate you coming on, Elizabeth. Thank you so much.
thank you as well.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you enjoyed this episode, kindly share it out with your friends and your family and anyone who you think would benefit from listening to this episode. Also, go to my show notes, and that's where I'll have all the information on how you can get in touch with Elizabeth and schedule your session with her. And until the next time, I just want to say thank you again for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. Until the next time, be well, stay happy, and bye for now. Take good care, everyone.